came over to this country, the United States, when she was 16 years old. And her older sister paid her way. And she came to Norris Springs, Iowa. And she was there for, 4 or 5 years. That is where she met my father. And she worked in a hotel there for some people and paid her way back to her sister the money that she paid for the ticket to come over. She paid her sister back by working in this hotel. Then my father was racing with some people. He had a horse that was named Queen, and she was a good racer, and she cut a corner close, and he got caught in the barbed wire fence, and had his left leg tore apart a lot. And my mother went to, I think they were living he was working with his uncle at Yale, Iowa, and she went there and nursed him until he was over this injury, and then they were married there, as far as I know. And they farmed on a small farm there, and in the wintertime he went around the country and bought furs from people that trapped animals, and he bought the furs, and that's how he made his winter living. But they lived on a farm after that, and I was 7 years old when we moved to Marathon, Iowa, which is Buena Vista County, and we lived there 5 years. And from there, we came to New Hampton. Dad bought a farm there, and we lived at New Hampton for about 4 years. And then he traded this farm on a farm at LaPorte City. And we farmed there for about 4 years, and then he, how will I say that? He couldn't make payments on his farm, so they sold him out. The people that owned the farm before him. And then we moved to Jubilee, Iowa, and Dad worked for people there by the month on the farm. And from there we moved to Nashua, and he bought this little farm there, and we lived there. Well, I wasn't there that much because I was 15 when we moved over here. And my sisters, they went to school at the Maple Grove Schoolhouse, and that's where they grew up. And I worked out for people around Nashua, and I worked for 2 doctors on baby cases when they had ladies had babies. Well, then I would go with the doctors and stay with these women until they was able to be up. And that's when I met Grandpa Samerson. And we were married in 1926, and we moved on a little farm about 5 miles out from Nashua, and that's where your grandma Niels was born, on this little farm. And she was 5 months old when we moved to the farm where we lived 14 years, and that next spring Bob was born, and there was 14 months difference between your grandma and Bob, Uncle Bob. And we lived there 14 years, and then when Grandpa Samerson, he was not well and decided to move to town, but we was sold out, and we was on share farming, and we got half of what our sale brought, and we moved to Charles City and lived in North Illinois Street for 3 years, and then Bob and Jim were never home. They was always out on the farm someplace. So we moved when Grandpa Samerson got hurt in Oliver and got his hand tore up. Dr. Fox told him to go back on the farm, and that's to get his strength back into his hand again. And we moved out here to Bassett on the Wilsey farm, and we lived there until Grandpa Samerson passed away, and that was 1953, and he was 52 years old. And from there, when he passed away, and Bob moved to Milwaukee, and I stayed on the farm for a couple years, and then I rented, and I moved to Waterloo and worked at the Allen Hospital until I worked there 16 years, so I think it was 69 when I was retired. And I married Harold Rice at that time in 1961, and we lived together 10 years, and he passed away the 1st of September 1971. And from then on, I've more or less just worked around the house and gardened and did odd jobs. And when Grandpa Harold died, my sister Christine and her husband stayed with me for 4 years, and they bought a duplex. And when they bought the duplex, I sold my house and put my money in theirs into the duplex, and I lived there for 18 years. And when I moved out of there, they paid me back what I had paid in, and then I came up here to Grandma Niels.